Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
And we continue our coverage of Red Country, Joe's third standalone and the next First Law entry, and we cover, oh God, the dust, Sweets Crossing, and Dreams. So let's get started. As usual, you know, folks, that we got to thank you for your continued support, your dedication, your devotion to us, to all the priceless art that we're putting out.
For 150 episodes.
Oh, that's right. This is going to be our 150th episode officially.
And that's right. We're going to start pointing out every single time we get to 50 episodes. We're like, that's right.
Yeah.
We're there.
We're still
Check
here.
us out.
Here's another one for you. Yeah, and we hope that you have enjoyed this ride with us. We have. It's been quite the journey, I think we could say.
It's 3 years this year, isn't it?
It was 3 years. No. Yes, it was. It was 3
Beginning
years.
of June, yeah.
And yeah,
It's been
June.
about 3 years, yeah.
Yep, it's about 3 years. That's crazy. I didn't even think about it. I forgot about that. Because you guys came here in 23, and we were already recording. That
We were
part.
only halfway through before they hanged when we came to New York. That really fucking weird.
That's funny. That's funny. Pick a
very
nice time to
strange.
do it. Picked a nice time. But yeah, folks, just go on ahead and follow us on our social media platforms. If you haven't yet, I'm gonna keep, keeping,
You're getting pestered.
yeah, getting past it. I'm standing on the soapbox. We're on Twitter. We don't really post a lot on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We don't really post a lot on Instagram. And we're on Facebook. We don't really post a lot on Facebook. But just join us anyway.
Yeah, follow us. It helps the numbers.
It helps the algorithm figure
Do
things
your
out.
part. I'm doing my part.
And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like I said before, all our episodes are now automatically uploaded there, so you can go and check that out. George has the video that he'd been working on for about 3 years is up on that. It's the is by as an eater theory.
No, it's by as the Weaver theory.
Oh, whatever.
Fuck you, Jeff. You haven't watched it, have you? You bastard.
I edited the damn thing. I edited the damn thing. I just forgot it. I just forgot because it's just so much. You guys went to like it's by as an alien with the starship. I was like, what is happening here? Jesus Christ. Bring your tinfoil hats for that one, folks.
Yeah, so if you want some light-hearted entertainment and wild speculation, go and watch that video. It's fun.
Yeah. Harrison said he's gonna be having one of his his documentary videos on there soon.
I was hoping to, but
his next video,
No.
I'm sorry, actually is gonna be analyzing the different kinds of rock in the far country. So hold on to your pants for that one.
Here we have the round boulder of the far country. It sits isolated, once having been a cornerstone of a great chapel of Eus. Now worn away by wind and rain.
I like how your narrator voice is just your Donald Trump voice that's softer.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like a mix. It's like a mix of Donald Trump and David Attenborough.
The ghosts have been using this rock for a very long time, cooking on it, fucking on it, doing whatever the ghosts do. I'm polling very well with the ghosts.
Polling very well. The ghost, love it. Love it.
anyways.
Yes. Anyways. But yeah, make sure you go to it and subscribe on our YouTube channel.
And sign up for the House of the Meme Maker, memeing every chapter, because there's some that haven't been filled in yet, and people need to. We need a break. Me and Bloody Niner have already done like 3 each, so come on,
Yeah.
get involved.
Get involved.
Real
Talking to
quick
you two.
What?
Make some memes, bitch.
I can't post it. What are you talking about?
We just send it to someone, but I'll post it for you. It's fine. Well, that was our community interaction segment, everybody.
So yeah, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms. But now we'll start off with our first chapter read through, and this is oh God, the dust, and this is all
This is
through.
Temple being a little bitch.
You
Yes.
whiny fucker.
Yeah. So 9 days have passed since Temple was rescued by Shy and Corlin, and not murdered by Savian. And so basically, it's 9 days. Each day he wakes up, it's not even dawn, right? He still sees the stars. And each day, Shy is there, hands on hips, kicking him awake. Come on, you're doing this, you're doing that. Like lately, he's been writing Drag, which is behind the Fellowship. And, well, Sweet has.
Temple is technically a cowboy.
Yeah, he is technically a cowboy. Yes, you are correct.
One of his many professions, one of his many natural talents.
Oh shit, it's Brother Longfoot reincarnated. And so writing Drag, so basically the whole thing is like Dab Sweet had taken them to a part of the far country where it's prairie grass and it's parched and sun bleached bramble, which if you know what bramble is, they're kind of how would you describe it? It's
very spiky vines.
Spiky vines, thank you. Yes. And sun bleached, right? So that means you could walk through them. There's a lot of dust, basically, especially when you're trailing a shitload of wagons and horses and people. You're getting all that dust.
Oh God, the dust.
Oh God. And funny enough, go ahead, George.
Well, to be fair, that is a really fucking unpleasant thing. Like the whole you can't open your mouth and like your inside of your nostrils get covered in dust and your eyes get all itchy and it's like it is pretty bad. To be fair, I don't blame him for complaining.
I mean, yeah, I don't blame him either, and especially with the fact that after 9 days, the debt that he has with Shy is at 153 because it started at 156, which is funny because didn't Mahood say it was 150, right?
Yeah, but she added interest.
She added interest, and then apparently he only shaved off 3 because Buckhorn had docked him 3 for a cow that he had lost yesterday.
Clearly not very good at riding drag then.
No.
Clearly.
No. And he is a miserable man. And they got this little rapport down, but it's not like rapport. She jokes, she goes, "You're riding drag," and he's like, "Really?" And she goes, "No."
Mahood needs a contract drawn up, and she's like, "Really? No."
Hedges wants you to petition the King of the Union on his behalf. No. And what I do like about this is that apparently Temple and his mule have a hate relationship. His mule, bites him, tries to kick him, piss on him any chance it could get. Temple thought he was saved when they pulled him out of that river, but he's starting to reconsider that. So they do get to like a new stream after some time because we're not gonna get into like all the dust, right? So at some point they get to a stream, and they're watering themselves, drinking some water, maybe splashing water in the face and whatnot. And Temple kind of just like plops down on his back, and Lamb stands over him and he goes, "Is my daughter getting her money's worth out of you?" Which is funny because he's blotting out the sun and everything. And apparently, Lamb has trimmed his beard and his hair short because Luleen Buckhorn had cut her children's hair, and I guess he reluctantly allowed himself to be part of that too. So apparently, he looked bigger, harder, and even more scarred with his gray hair and beard clipped short. Dun, dun, dun. And
he looks a bit more like the Logan we know.
the who? Sorry.
The lamb we know.
The lamb we know. And Temple jokes that she might turn a profit if she was to sell him for meat.
To be fair, she probably wouldn't.
That's a very ghost thing for Shy to say.
what? What?
That's
And
Shy is part ghost. She's like half ghost, isn't she? Or a quarter. She's a quarter ghost.
yeah, but she didn't say it. Temple's just
Temple says it.
joking. Temple's joking with Lamb that she would.
No, I'm sorry. I meant to say like it's a very like that's
Ghost
something
whisper
that she
to do.
Yes.
Gotcha,
It's a very
gotcha.
ghost thing to do.
Sorry. And Temple notes that she does seem angry about something, and Lambs goes, "Oh, well, she's been disappointed a lot, and so Temple asks him, like, goes, are you guys out here for a fresh beginning?" And Lamb goes, "Oh, she didn't tell you?" And Temple goes, "Well, when she talks to me, it's mostly about our debt and how slowly I'm clearing it." But so then Lamb, he tells him that Shy has a brother and sister that were taken. Bandits had stole them, burned their farm, and killed a friend of theirs, and they're following them. There might be 20 kids all in all that are part of that crew that they've stolen. And then Temple goes as he goes, what's gonna happen when you find them? And Lamb just goes, whatever needs to happen. He made a promise to their mother to keep those children safe. He's broken a lot of promises in his time, but this one he means to keep. And so then Lamb asks him what brings him out here. He says, well, I was running away. One way or another, he's made a habit of running. And, Lamb agreed. He says, I've done the same thing myself. It just tends to, whenever I run away, I found out that shit just catches up to you, right?
Such a good line as well, when he's like, it doesn't matter how far you run, you turn around and there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then Lamb, he offers to pull Temple up to his feet, and Temple goes to grab his hand and stops, and he goes, oh, you have 9 fingers. And now Lamb isn't smiling, he's frowning at him, and he's not, he doesn't look such a slow and friendly old fella anymore. Lamb asks him, are you a missing finger enthusiast? Temple goes, no, but I may have met one. He said he'd been sent to the far country to find a 9-fingered man. Lamb goes, probably ain't the only man missing a finger in the far country. And Temple here feels the need to pick his words very carefully, clearly. And he goes, I have a feeling you're the sort of man that sort of man might be looking for. He had a metal eye. Lamb doesn't recognize, like, that doesn't strike any kind of sense of familiarity with Lamb.
I find that interesting because it's sort of like a reversal of a trope, isn't it? Where it's like the character has something very like conspicuous about them, and you describe them like, "Oh yeah, I know who that is." But it's like he's got a metal eye. It's like, eh.
Right. And
I don't know anyone with a metal eye. What the fuck are you talking about?
Right. And Lamb said, he goes, a man with the missing eye after a man with the missing finger. He goes, there's a song in there. He goes, well, did he give a name at least? And then Temple goes, call Shivers. And now Lamb goes, God damn it. He goes, by the dead, the past won't say where you put it. So you do know him then? And he goes, yeah, I did a long time ago. But you know what they say, old milk turns sour, but old scores just get sweeter. Like, okay, interesting. And then out of nowhere, we hear Shy go, speaking of scores, 152 marks and 8 bits. And Temple goes, why didn't you just leave me in the river? And then I like how this is where Shy says the thing that Harrison said. She goes, up you get. Mahood wants a bill of ownership drawn up on a set of horses. Really? No. I'm riding drag again. God damn it. And I like how the chapter ends with Temple going to Lamb, just soft enough, did you say? And Lamb goes, well, there's always tomorrow. Harrison, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I did. So something I think about too. There's a little bit of this in the next chapter as well, I think. But there is this thing that Lamb does through this section of the book, and like he kind of follows the chapters along, like what he does, and I think it's really cool the way that Joe lays it out. And the big part of it is like as the story progresses, the more the more relaxed or the more unveiled. Like there's like this whole subplot with Lamb becoming, Logan, and we get him. He's cut his hair back here, and he hasn't cut it all off, but it's more pulled back. It's revealing
It's-
more of his scarred face. Very
and he's
symbolic.
having more of those kinds of interactions with people as well, where he's sort of reflecting on his past, where instead of
does it-
avoiding it.
Yes. He does that. He every single conversation he's like, oh yeah, like the past. Oh, and then he even in this, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but in this next chapter too, like all through these chapters, he spends a significant amount of time. Like his dialogue is just like, oh, the past. Like even somebody else is talking, and he's like, well, you never know. Blah blah blah. Blah. He's becoming more accepting of it. And to be honest, we've seen him in this exact state before, in the previous story. Whenever before they hanged and stuff. And I just think it's so like Logan is such a complete character that there's a subtle story going on in his mind that we know is happening. I think that's really cool and really well done. And this is just the progression of that. Like he's a little bit more dangerous now. He's a little bit more reflective. He's more accepting, and I don't know, it's subtle, and we'll see that progression of the story. It's like each part of the story, time something happens, the closer he gets to his past self, and it wouldn't be as noticeable if we didn't know like what kind of person he was, and that's that's Shy's perspective. But as the reader, we are like simultaneously like, ooh yeah, look at this, he's coming out, but also like, oh god. No, you're better than this. Please, you've changed, right? Surely you've changed. I just think it's very, very subtle and very creative the way he's done this. So,
Yeah, and the thing is like I don't know if you're familiar with westerns, but that's kind of like a trope, right?
I'm gonna say that, yeah.
Like Shane, Unforgiven. I think does like the past come into play in the what's the trilogy, the spaghetti westerns, Sergio Leone's
Good, the Bad and the Ugly, and Fistful of Dollars.
that shit like that. I think I can't remember if the past is a it's almost like the past is a character in of itself in a way.
yeah.
Right, in these settings. So yeah, I mean we have seen it, right? Like you said in the original trilogy with Logan about like the past, but here it's much more prevalent, I guess you could say, or at least because we're not looking at it through Logan's eyes now, we're looking at it through Sky or Temple's. Now there's a lot more mystique behind it, and there's a lot more external from the character's point of view, grappling with the past on Lamb's part.
I think that's what it is. I think we know the kind of path he is kind of going down right now, and so it's more noticeable for us for us to be like, oh, what are you doing? Stop it!
Stop it! You said you was gonna be better.
You said it'd be better, and like his language of him being like, oh, this, like I promised to keep my, I had a promise. I have to keep that promise. It's the same thing as, I don't have a choice. I have to do this thing. In his mind, whether he's
Yeah.
And
it's a way for him to escape responsibility, even though he knows full well what he's doing.
And I will now. I mentioned I was gonna mention this in the next chapter, but since we're already talking about him, I noticed too whenever I was reading these chapters that how he in this next chapter, Timble mentions about how like Shy being in charge. Oh no, sorry, Sweet is like, oh, Shy takes charge pretty quick, doesn't she? And Logan's like, yeah, that's what she does. If you're lucky, that's what happens. But that's so interesting to me because Logan is just basically being like, he is to him. Shy is just like in the back in his subconscious. He's just like Baez or Bethod to him. Whether it's active or not, it just is something that's happening in his mind, and she's taking responsibility. Oh, that's her choice. Oh, I'm just following her, or I'm just keeping my promise to my ex-wife, my dead wife. I'm keeping that promise, like you said, but like also it's to a person. Every single step of the way that he's gone, he's always given the responsibility to somebody else, such as Shy and things like that. that's what he's doing here. It's like,
you know,
I-
you brought and what you bring up is interesting, right? Because a thought just struck me. You know, we'll see this a lot in Red Country. We'll see it. We saw it already in Averstock and what have you, right?
yes,
Or even before that. But like, he'll let other people dictate what's going on, quote unquote, right? But not. But then, like in actuality, it's always like kind of like we can't talk about this right now, but like Sharpen's story and stuff like that. He ultimately, if he wants to like decide what's gonna happen, he will. He'll take. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
who's officially in charge. Once Lamb/Logan makes a decision, it goes off script. He will do it, and doesn't. And it's his way or the highway or the dead way. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
like that. I like that he for the majority of the time, he'll shirk responsibility in a sense, right? And he'll be like, well, it's not my choice. I'm just following along. Just do what we got to do, right? I'm just here for the ride, baby. But then, when there's a certain moment, he goes, yeah, fuck all that. I'm deciding what's happening. And
Yeah,
then he kind of
it
goes
did
back
all
and
this
he goes like, oh,
violence.
I guess you're in charge now. You've always
Yeah.
been in charge. It's like, hey, did you not see that trail of bodies you left like back there? Did you not like?
He does it every time, and
Yeah.
he does it. The tragedy is that he does it with the people he loves the most. Like
Yeah.
as a brother, he loved Bethod, and not saying that Bethod didn't do his part or anything. It's all Logan. I'm not saying that at all, but like he did
Bethod
put a
was
lot.
right,
He put
hashtag.
all he put all the blame on Bethod when really it was both of them
Yeah.
together. And
Somebody's head got nailed to a standard while their safety
I'm
was
saying that
negotiated for.
Bethod was definitely a part of the problem. I'm not saying
Well,
that.
maybe.
Bethod has responsibility. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but the
Bethod's a sweet little boy that revolutionized and galvanized the North. All right, he forwarded society.
In this house, Bethod is a hero.
Yes, in this house, Bethod's a hero. End the story. He built roads, instituted taxes.
Listen, I always love Bethod. Okay. Anyways, the point is I just noticed the first time, like reading this particular story, that like he's putting Shy in the same category of his mind that he put Bethod and Baez in. Like, oh well, like, and he respects those people. He wants them to be in charge, but like it also is about that responsibility thing we were talking about. I just thought that was interesting. So
Yeah.
I've been holding this chapter up for a while though, so I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Let's just give our ratings.
I'm gonna give it. To be honest, it has to happen, but I'm gonna give it a 2. This is just Temple being upset about him doing stuff, and
Yeah.
the only thing we didn't talk about was the funniest moment in the chapter for me, which is Temple being like, "Oh yeah," he's like assessing everybody. He's kind of giving everybody a look over. Nothing that we don't already know. But during that same time frame, he's like, "Oh yeah, like don't worry." Leaf's interested in Shy, like in a boyish way, like a crush. He's like, but he's not interested in Shy at all. Not at all. Not the way that she.
right.
He's like, oh, not interested. But then he's like, at the same time, like, ooh,
I wonder.
she's kind of hot though.
Like, is she as hard underneath as she is in her exterior?
Yes, exactly. It's hilarious.
Temple's a funny man. He's a funny man. George, what are you gonna give it?
I'm just gonna go one higher and give it a 3. I kind of sympathise with Temple, and the fact that he's just whining and complaining about things. I like it. I think it's funny. There's nothing wrong with that.
I was gonna say, do you sympathize because you don't like hard work? Is that it?
Exactly, that's it. I am not built for hard labor at all.
Oh yeah, pussy. Well, I'm gonna split the difference between the two of you because I like sequence, and I'm going 2 and a knuckle because Temple's bitching about hard work. How dare he? It's what a man does.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a short chapter. We get Temple, complaining about the hard work, but also about the fact that his debt seems to be increasing, not decreasing, at least from his perspective.
Who can't relate to that?
And a nice little thing of like, oh, Lamb now is aware that somebody's looking for him specifically, and we know he knows who it is. We know who it is. We're on the same page here. But we'll move on to our next segment, which is our community interaction segment. Folks, it's just going to be about the meming every chapter. That's up on the House of the Meme Maker subreddit. It's in action right now. It's in the throes. People are posting some hilarious, and I mean hilarious memes. So you should join in on the fun.
Absolutely.
George,
It's the House of the Meme Maker Renaissance, you know?
Yeah, sweet. It is coming back.
I might
I don't know,
actually,
I
I might actually get around to updating the website. So we'll just post them all on there as well for posterity.
You know what? We should update the website, right? Shouldn't we pay somebody to do that for us?
It's not hard. I'm just lazy.
There's look, we got the YouTube thing squared away. We're gonna give you some new content, by the way. We were talking about it briefly. We haven't got together to talk about it like in depth, but we have some ideas. I don't know why I went goofy there. Holy shit.
You went full goofy there, Jesus.
I did. Gorsh. So we'll so join the Meming Every Chapter soiree over there in the House of the Meme Maker subreddit. Sir Spaceman's running it. Just go ahead and choose a chapter and do your part. Contribute to the community. But we'll move on to our second chapter read through, which is Sweets Crossing. And they get to the Imperial Bridge over at Sictus. And so are we sure this isn't one of the Maker's Bridge? Because this shit is 5 spans so high above the water. This is basically like a similar bridge as the one in crossing the...
No. The one in Alcus is one...
No, not Alcus.
Oh, yeah,
Data.
the one that they cross.
Gentlemen, may I?
Before they hanged, right? It's one span, so it's one single thing. This is five arches.
Yeah.
Like the Maker doesn't need to do that.
Yeah. Also, there's a couple of other key differences. One, all the other bridges were made 2,000 years ago. This one was made 1,000 years ago. Number two, like George said, it is made with 5 arches. They're grand, they're cool, but they're not one span. Number three, it's made of stone.
Yeah, everything the Maker makes is made out of metal.
Right. But I was going to point out that the only thing that's said explicitly in this chapter that it is made of stone on this bridge is just the sculptures. Not anything about the bridge itself is said to be made of stone. That's
Not directly, but
it's stonework sprouted with pink flowered weaves.
Yeah, because
even old trees.
Because right before that same sentence, it says the sculptures on...
No, but it says along its length and in clusters both ends. So, like, obviously, this is on the actual top of the bridge as well.
I skipped that part somehow. I think my brain just wanted to be like, this is a Maker's Bridge, goddammit.
Have with that.
I think if every single bridge in this series where they get to it, it's like, the Maker made that.
Over here
exactly
in this
right.
area, it makes sense in the West, in the old Empire area.
No, I get it. I do get it. I just think it's like Harrison was saying, this was built a lot later, and
wait. I wanted to challenge Harrison on this. You said 2,000 years ago.
Yes, inside of before they hanged.
Now here's the thing. How?
Let me finish.
All right.
And before they hang, they're in Kelsus, and Bias is questioning the governor or the mayor or whatever, and is like, "Hey, what about the bridges?" And the mayor or the governor of Kelsus, the legate, yeah, he's like, well, one of them was destroyed a while ago. The other one was just the bridge of Adarmian was destroyed by. What's his nuts? The one
What's his nut?
Legate Sarmus. That one was destroyed by him. And the only other bridge, because there were 3 bridges gifted to Juvens by him, was in
Juvens.
Alcus. But Juvens by Canadians. But the thing that denotes it is Bias is like, are you serious? He destroyed the bridge of Adarmium, the bridge that stood for 2,000 years? And he built all those bridges back to back to back. All those bridges were built 2,000 years ago.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to read my own before they're
Just do your own research.
Yeah.
You're just being a dick.
I'm just making sure. I just want to make sure. I will get back to you on that, Harrison. But okay. So basically, Shy, Lamb, and Sweet, Dab Sweet, are they're leading the fellowship to this bridge, right? And this bridge is the source of a lot of commotion and I guess we could say commerce, because it's such a major crossing that besides you, since you have people like trying to get to this spot to cross this bridge, because there's not a lot of bridges, I guess, in the area. There's a lot of people that are, like roadway merchants, right? Selling all kinds of wares, right? Like, didn't one person try to give Shy a cat and be like, "This rats the size of horses increase. You're gonna need a cat." It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, there is
There's
that.
so many of these market scenes where the characters are just walking through and they're just like being accosted by all these like merchants.
It's kind of like it's kind of like in the Heroes when Gorse is walking
For
through the
pet
camp.
or pot.
Yeah, pet a paw.
Pet or pot.
Don't you do anything with that puppy, goddammit. So yeah, they and some people recognize Dab Sweet. They're like, Dab Sweet, yeah. And so Corlin, Shy, Lamb, and Dab Sweet, and basically they get to I guess we could call it the gate, right? The gatehouse of the bridge, and
Yeah.
If you could call it that, yeah.
yeah. Before they get there, Corlin, jokes with Shy about like, "Where's your man whore?" Talking about Temple. She's like, and Shy's like, "You know what? He did say he had many professions. Maybe that was one of his." I swear, Brother Longfoot 2.0. So at the gate of the bridge on this side, there's a man. I guess they own the bridge, quote unquote. Possession is 9/10 of the law or whatever.
No, he says possession is most of the law.
And I like how at that point Shy looks over his shoulder like, "Where's Temple when you need him?" But whatchamacallit. So it's a guy with a red beard who's the one that said that, I believe. No, Nobly is the one that said that. Nobly is one of his companions, Redbeard. And Redbeard has a kid as well, a son perched on a little stone pillar. And he's just throwing his 2 cents in whenever. He's like, "You big idiot, stupid bitch," every time they're like communicating. So
Yeah.
basically, they are charging people to cross the bridge. And so there's a toll, and the toll is a mark a body, 2 marks a beast, 3 marks a wagon. And so that's a lot of money for this
we
fellowship.
know there's like at least 100 people, many cows, probably
Like
about 50 wagons.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of money.
Yeah. So it's a lot of money. And Temple shows up, and so they're like, "Ooh," I mean, Sweet's like, "We got to talk to Mahood, see about, what we do for the, like, how, to come up with the money." But then Shy goes, "Let me handle this." And Shy goes, "Well, that gate doesn't look like much. I bet I could kick that in." And then Redbeard thinks that's like a threat or something. She goes, "No. I'm not, I mean, there's no violent intentions. We don't have any. But the ghosts aren't so peaceful lately." She hears that Sangeed's got his sword drawn again. And now the Redbeard guy's like, "Sangeed?" And Temple, quick of mind, right? He jumps in. He goes, "The very same. He's the terror of the far country. A fellowship of 50 was massacred not a day's ride from here. Not an ear left between them." And then Sweet jumps in and he goes, "Saw it ourselves. They done outrages that it pains me to remember." And then Lamb jumps in and he goes, "Outrages. I was sick." And I like how Shy goes, "Him, sick." The things as they are, I'd want a decent gate to hide behind. She asked him, "Is the other one at the end? The other one at the end is just as bad as this one?" And then the boy, he says it without thinking. He goes, "We don't even have a gate at the other end." Oh. And she goes, "Well, it's your bridge, but," and then she goes, "It so happens that we have a man along by the name of Abraham Mahood, a wonder of a smith, among other things." And I like how Redbeard goes, "Oh, what? And he brought his forge with him, did he?" And then Shy goes, "Well, that he did. His Kernsvik patent portable forge." And I like how Redbeard goes, "His what?" And Temple jumps in again. He goes, as wondrous as creation of the modern age as your bridge is of the ancient. So Shy, now Shy's negotiating. She goes, half a day, and he'll have you basically, a fantastic gate on both ends. And so Redbeard goes, all right, half a price if you fix up our gates. But then she goes, nuh-uh, we go free or not at all. And then Redbeard goes, no, half price. And then Sweet goes, because she goes, what do you reckon, Sweet? And he goes, I reckon I've been robbed before, but at least they didn't dress it up any. But then because the guy heard her say Sweet, he goes, wait a minute, you're Dab Sweet, the scout?
And they start bringing up all the stories about him. And I love how, like, even though Sweet denies all of his stories, he's like, yeah, I twisted that bear's head off with my own hands.
Yeah. Yep. So he goes, all right, how about this? Can we use your name on the bridge? We'll call it Sweet's Crossing. And he puts his hand in the air like he's envisioning the sign. And then Sweet's confused. He's like, what? It's been here 1,000 years. There's no one going to believe I built it. And he goes, no. But they'll believe you use it, though. Every time you cross this river, you come this way. And Sweet goes, but I come whatever way makes sense on that at that time. And he goes, but we'll say you come this way. And then Sweet's confused, but then Shy jumps in. She goes, he usually charges 500 marks for the usage of it. And I like how Redbeard goes, what? And then Sweet goes, what? And then Temple, he jumps into, he goes, there's a manufacturer of biscuits in Adua who pays him 1,000 marks a year just to put his face on the box. And Knobbly goes, what? And then Sweet goes, what? And then Shy goes, but seeing as we're using your bridge ourselves, and it is a wonder of the ancient age, we'll do a cut price deal, 150 marks only, our fellowship cross free, and you could put his name on the bridge. How's that? You made 350 marks today, and you didn't even move. Now, Knobbly looks delighted, but Redbeard is still kind of doubting. He's like, wait a minute. We pay you that. What's to stop you from selling his name to every other bridge, ford, and ferry across the far country? And then Shy goes, well, we'll draw up a contract, good and proper, and make all our marks on it. And the guy goes, a contract? Where the hell are you going to find a lawyer out here? And now Shy, she grins, slaps a hand on Temple's shoulder, and he goes, well, as luck would have it, we're traveling with the best damn lawyer west of Starkland. And so he'll draw up the papers, just 25 marks for him to draw up the papers. She's always wheeling and dealing, and she spits in her hand. She, offers it, and Redbeard, he spits in his hand. They shake hands because that's the way you do it in the West. And Temple even asks him, like, what language shall I draft the papers? And I like how Redbeard and Knobbly look at each other, and they go, doesn't matter. None of us can read. And then Temple whispers in Shy's ear, 119 marks. All right. And then as they get closer to the gate, Temple, pretending not to see the boy, shoves him off the perch and knocks him into the mud. He goes, I'm so sorry. I did not see you there. And Shy, in her mind's eye, she says that he probably shouldn't have just for that, but Shy found afterwards that he'd moved up quite considerably in her estimation. And that's the end of that chapter, boys. How do we rate it?
I actually really like this chapter. It's a very I love the interactions. Like, I always love it when Joe's characters get to a new place and they're interacting with all these fucking wacky people that we're never going to see again. Joe is very, very good at that. And it's basically a comedy routine, isn't it? This is just like a sketch.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes. It is. And what I do like about it is, though, it was 9 days that Temple had been with them, right, from the previous chapter. We don't know how many more days this chapter is, but more. And
We can kind of infer from the debt, because we know it's like 1 and a bit marks a day.
Right, something like that.
So it's like maybe been like another 4 or 5 days.
But there's familiarity developing between everybody, is what I'm saying.
And I love the fact that everything that's been mentioned so far builds into this. So like the fact that Mahood has his own forge with him, like that's how they start the negotiation, and like all of these details have been brought up before and kind of like developed just to pay off this this great moment. And I love the fact that Temple actually has something to do now.
Yeah.
Yes, he's got a purpose now.
Yeah, now he's useful. Now he's useful. So how do you rate it?
Oh, a 5.
You'll give it a 5, Harrison?
Yeah.
He's thinking, folks. He's thinking.
5 and a knuckle.
Ooh.
Honestly, the same reasons. I just think it's very entertaining. It's one of those random moments. It has so little like actual bearing in the story, but it's a really good way, like you said, like they're getting to like everybody's more familiar with each other and all of that jazz. So I think it's well done, but it's it's fairly short and it could have not happened, but it's very fun that it did. So I'm gonna also give it a 5 and a knuckle. So like it just a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I'm a fan of sequence, but I do like this chapter a lot. I'm going to give it a 5 along with George. It's a fun chapter. It's short, but it's very fun and no violence. Maybe the threat of violence here, but just doesn't require violence to get a decent score. Doesn't always. But yeah, so it's a good chapter, and we'll move on to our next segment, which is our best meme of the week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
So this might be a bit of a controversial one because our poster this week, Lick Shots 419, has been it's won the meme of the week a couple of times now. He wasn't meant to post this because it was somebody else's. Somebody else had slated it for the meming every chapter.
Ooh.
And it was our French Slurve who we've done the video with and has been on the guest as well. He was not very happy about this because it also got more upvotes than his as well.
Oh damn!
Which I think is a nice little bit of subreddit drama though. But it's just Shaquille O'Neal. I don't know the context. I don't know what it's really about, but it's Shy South to Lamb. I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game.
Basically, what the context of that is that some years back, Shaquille O'Neal was criticizing a certain basketball player, saying he sucked, and then like actually watched him like play a game. He goes, "Oh shit, I was wrong. My bad."
Yes, exactly.
It was something like that. So that's the context.
Absolutely. You can get it from just the facial expression and the quote. So I think that's absolutely brilliant. Really, really good meme.
It is a really good one. Yeah. It is. It is. Oh, thank you for that. George, you should post your meme. The one you just sent me and Harrison.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sending it to somebody because it's out on the 25th.
Oh, nice. Nice. So the one on the 25th, folks, that's from us. Wink,
Yeah,
wink.
it's already out by now. By the time you
Yeah,
listen to
it'll be out. It'll be out. So go ahead and join it. I saw it. It's fucking hilarious. I love it. I gotta give George his flowers. Well, yeah, thank you for that. And folks, don't forget, memeing every chapter. Get on it. And just post your memes regularly in the House of the Meme Maker because we love them. So much fun. And we'll move on to our third and final chapter read-through, which is also going to be mixed with the character spot because this is a Little People chapter. And this is Dreams. Folks, we start off with, this is basically all the people that are partaking in the fellowship. Not all, but, some figures that will... let's say, not going to say they're central to the plot, but they have some prominence, right? And we start off with Hedges, right? And Hedges, what's Hedges like, boys? How do we?
Yeah, Hedges is a miserable cunt, and he's also a huge racist.
Oh my, yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he immediately goes in and calls Mahood a stinking brown bastard. Don't quote me on that.
Too late. I'm writing it down.
And also makes fun of Buckholm's speech impediment. So, got a bit of ableism in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a dick.
He's a dick. And we find out that he was actually at Osrung. Obviously, we know that he was at Osrung because...
We saw him.
We saw him. But in that charge when Tunney leads the path with his standard, Hedges just stays behind and stabs himself in the leg. Tries to get himself decommissioned. So he's also a coward.
Uh-huh. Big ass coward.
Cowardice.
We don't like Hedges. I felt bad for him in the first time we met him in this book because when Shy gives him the pie, right? He's very grateful, right? But now we just see he's like one of those miserable incel cunts that blames the world around him.
Yeah, it's never it's never his fault.
Well, that and like what he says about Shy is like the most like gross scumbaggy thing. Like, and I don't mean this like I'm not sitting up on a pedestal here. Like,
Yeah.
we're guys, you know, we all have our fun in the sun, you know. But this guy is gross. He's like, yeah, look at all these people. Yeah, they don't fucking appreciate him. Yeah, they're just look at these stupid women. And then he looks at Shy and he's like, yeah, but you know, she's not like those other girls. She's always busy getting things done and working hard and the way her figure is, and ooh, I he'd like to show her something rather than talking to that brown bastard at Temple. He can actually be a real man to her. Like you're like, oh god, Jesus Christ,
He's fucking disgusting.
you're just too far, dude. Get some fucking help.
And also, he also knows about. He's seen Savian in Starikland.
In Rostad, right?
In Rostov, that was it.
Yeah.
And he's seen all the tattoos and seen him given all those, and heard the name Conthus as well. In
The plot thickens.
Yeah, so maybe this is the renowned conscious that we've all heard.
Cautious.
Conscious, money.
Yeah, and then at some point, well, do you want? I mean, there's not much to talk about that. That he sees Savian and Corlin, and he heard the name Conthus, and that's pretty much it, right?
And he's biding his time. He's waiting for the right person to tell about this. And that's Hedges.
That's Hedges. And then we switch over to Reynold Buckhorn.
Reynold.
Mhm.
Oh, he must be the same. Now, see, this is one of those instances where Joe uses the same name because they're in the same culture group, and sometimes the names get reused.
Yeah.
It happens sometimes, guys. Casimir is not the same Casimir.
Shut up. He is. So tell us about Buckhorn.
Yeah, Buckhorn, Papa Buckhorn, as we'll soon see, Mama Buckhorn. He is like, I like his POV quite a lot actually, because him and his wife's, because they're essentially what they both are is like the epitome of what the father and mother should be, but neither one of them really likes it that much, but they spent their entire life in this role. And they kind of despise each other, and they kind of despise their children, and they kind of despise their role, but also lack the communication skills to share that with their partner, who they also deeply love, and they deeply love their children, and they're deeply proud of who they are. And I think that they feel like so real. I think that this is such a common, both of them together, they feel like such a modern couple, like where, you know, you're just kind of stuck in your role. But it doesn't mean just because you're unhappy sometimes or you're stuck in a role that you hate your life and that everything is awful and that they're not good people. Everybody says Buckhorn is a good man, and he seems to be, relatively speaking, other than perhaps how he treats his wife. And simultaneously, his wife to be an excellent mother, rearing all those children, having to deal with all that bullshit, but also like is kind of resentful of it. It's tragic in a way too, though, because if they could just communicate with each other honestly, as they both even say like they used to, then I think that they would be like really, really healthy.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see this in the next switch, right? But, you know, it's like, I think this is actually the hallmark of a long-lasting relationship, because sometimes you just, your partner annoys you, right? And even on her perspective, sometimes she hated her husband, but sometimes not, right? And I just think... I think it's the other couple that they're like, oh, that's an unhealthy relationship. Whereas here, actually, no, wait, Buckhorn kind of dragged her and the kids out for like, for what? For gold? Like just for the prospect of gold, or because he's not the one with
I find it quite funny because Buckhorn is like you said, Harrison. They're sort of like they're a bit conflicted on this because he's like, I don't really want to be here. I'm just doing it because I want to make a better life for my family.
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
So they don't, you know, they're herding, aren't they? So most of the cows are theirs.
I think so, actually. Yeah, I think so. You're right.
Yes. They presumably, there's something that says this, but presumably they're not mobility, but they had a lot of farmland, and they basically packed up all of everything they owned and decided to take a risk out here. But I don't think, Jeff, that they are actually that healthy. They
You-
have
you
been
might-
together a long time.
Yeah, you might be right. I don't know. I'm looking
I don't
at it
mean
over
I
again.
don't. This doesn't mean that they are bad. You know, like they're like I said, they're both good people, and they both fulfill their roles, and they both love each other, and all that stuff. But there is one key thing that's keeping them back from greatness in themselves and the relationship and with others, and
With the
that's
communication.
communicating with communication.
Right.
And they do lack that.
I really like the fact that he's so naive towards this as well. He's like,
Right, you're right.
Why can't I just ask her? Why can't I just go, well, how can we make this better? Because he just can't bring himself to say it.
Right,
Yeah.
because he doesn't know what to do to make her happy, and sometimes he felt like asking her, but it's like, do it, just ask her that question, and then you switch. Oh, we switch over to Luline or Luline Buckhorn, which is the wife, Luline, and it's interesting that from her perspective, one of the first things she says is right, like sometimes she hates her kids because the whining and the sore spots and their endless gripping, crushing needs. So it's funny. Like
so
I
relative, dude.
don't think they're
That's
you
so
might
relative.
yeah. And then she from the general sense is that she kind of wants to be a bit more like active and proactive in terms of like the decisions made by the fellowship and just the activities. Like she wants to go riding and stuff, right? Is that correct?
She wants
Yeah.
to. Yeah, they're both like on the verge of a midlife crisis, but they would be completely avoidable if they would just communicate with each other,
Mm-hmm.
express to each other what they desire. That's
Yeah.
what's tragic, but also like I love that they feel so real. Like this is such a common thing, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, she even looks at it is her that she looks at Shy and goes, "Oh wow, I wish I could be like that instead."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this entire time, this whole POV as well, they're all just going to piss as well, which is an interesting sort of character thing. Like you know, I love the little people chapters from Joe, but a lot of the time they are very action centric.
Yes.
But the fact that this one is specifically just day to day life, and everybody's just going about their kind of morning and just doing the things they would normally be doing, I think that makes it a really interesting chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does it does create a more interesting dynamic compared to what a lot of the little people chapters are like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because it's all like just pontificating, pondering about their past and their future prospects, right? And like, Luline kind of the only thing stopping her from being like Shy is herself, really. Like she could still be a mother and be riding horses and just pissing wherever she wants to piss and shit like that.
Yeah.
But it's like decorum and just I guess what's the word I'm looking for? You're
right.
Ingrained behaviors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is even more notable because she talks about how oh my god, the older woman, the other nobility person.
Engelstad.
How like that they've lost, like they don't normally she'd never be allowed to be near her and XYZ and blah blah blah, but like she's holding herself back just exactly the same, despite talking about how she's not. I just think that is a very it's a very human perspective from them. Like they both are holding each other back, just like such a simple solution with each other. They could it's like tragic.
Yeah, and Lillian, I know we pointed out that she said she hated her kids, but she really does. She loves her kids. I mean, there's an instance where somebody screamed from the direction of their wagon, and she thought it was like her daughter, and she looks and they're just playing around. They're play fighting, but she got so scared in that moment that Ingolstadt had to like pat her hand and calm her down, and it's just because she goes, "There's so many dangers out here that so much could go wrong." She goes, "It's okay. It's okay." So that's it's nice. Then we switch again to the famous Yosef Lestek.
Oh my god! How many characters in these series has a prostate problem? And they just can't.
A decent amount. I feel like
it's just such a unique sort of like Joe loves to like talk about like the way that the human body kind of fails. Like you get this with Koska as well, where he's just sort of deteriorating over time.
And Glockter
as well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that we've only seen Josef Lestek on stage, and it was just sort of just a bit in the Blade itself. And I love the fact that we get all of this backstory because it's just something that you'd never think about, and it fleshes out the world so much that there's this whole sort of world of people that are sort of just like in the show business, but they exist and they're there, and you really feel it. You really feel like this does properly flesh out the world. You know, this is proper world building.
Yeah.
I love his monologue where he's just like at the beginning, he's like, "Yes, those two trolls, the manager and the screenwriter. I wouldn't even deign to look at them." And then later he's like, "Oh, and then I started to get older, my voice failed me, and I need to piss all the time." And it just things just went downhill from there.
Right. And then isn't there like a letter that is the reason he's going out to Crease?
Is there? One sec.
Yeah, Camling's letter.
Camling, yeah, and Camling will come up later, but yeah, so he gets a letter from Camling inviting him to come to Crease to spread culture to the far country. Which is, we'll see what happens with that later. That's very fun.
But because Lestek is not finished yet. Not he. Redemption can come in the most unlooked for places.
Yeah, and
Definitely
we also
on the
find out-
mend.
Exactly, definitely on the mend, despite the hallucinatory episodes. So maybe it's got a bit of madness in there as well.
He's got. Did I miss that part?
Yeah,
What is it?
it said retention can come in retention can come in the most unlooked for places, and it's been some time since his last hallucinatory.
Oh my god! How did I skip over that line? I just read this paragraph. What the fuck?
But that's just like a tortured artist, isn't it? He's just
That's funny. And I like how he goes, "My best performance is ahead of me," gritting his teeth as he squeezes a few more drops into the can. Best performance.
Yeah, and if anybody's had a UTI, you know what that's like.
Have you?
Have you?
I thought it was fairly common, to be fair, but you know,
Maybe it's common over in Britain land.
Britain
Fuck
land. Britain land. The famous land of Britain.
And then we switch on over to salad. Salad?
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 salad.
Garden salad? This is
She's lady of the night, as you like to say, Jeffrey.
yes, lady of the night. Yes.
I feel like you were trying to bait me there.
No,
Yeah,
She's a
Oh my God, George! He called them ladies of the night. You don't call them whores.
She calls herself that. So yeah, Salad is not happy with her life at all, and it's sort of just like getting along day to day. It's kind of sad. I think a lot of when Joe writes about sex workers and stuff like that, it does tend to be that sort of shit. How have I ended up in this situation, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's always tough, right?
It's especially sad when she says, what would her parents think? It doesn't matter because they're dead and they've lost their choice. But she also feels like she's lost her choice as well.
Yeesh.
Yeah, it's definitely
and
one of
it's
those,
just like, oh, that's gross.
it's one of those sad situations where it's like a lot of Joe's characters are like, oh, they did it to themselves, but I mean, not really, not here, and that's sad. That makes it worse.
Yeah, there's another one there, Goldie, which seems to be like the leader a little bit of the ladies of the night. I guess we could say, like, she's not the pimp, but she's like, as it's said in their parlance, the bottom bitch. I'm not. This is not my word.
Got the queen bee.
The queen bee.
But no, this is overall just a very depressing segment because it's just like you said, Goldie's like, yeah, we're gonna have 50 clients a day out there, and Charlotte's like, oh, that sounds horrible.
It is sad.
Yeah. What else do you want to say about that? Like, there's Goldie. What's the name of the pimp?
I don't know if we've ever had a name for him.
I feel like I
No,
thought
the name's there. Oh, it's
there's Najee, there's Goldie, there's Solid, there's
No, I don't. I think he's only
no. Yep, Lankland.
Lankland. That is a pimp name.
That is a pimp name. Mm-hmm. That is. Yeah, boy.
totally.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to say about that because it's just really fucking sad.
Yeah.
What about you, Harrison?
Yeah, it makes me feel sad too. Thanks for asking, George. Is that what you want to know?
Yeah, I'm satisfied now.
And so I will say at the end of this part for them, they see Dab Sweet, right, riding off with Crying Rock, and Goldie says, "Good old Dab Sweet, never been lost in his life, I hear." And then we switch over, and it's the perspective of Dab Sweet, and Crying Rock is saying, "Not lost then." So I guess they're saying, like, were they maybe lost? He might be lost.
Yeah, they've been having some trouble up until this point. I like
maybe a little bit. So like, because apparently Crying Rock and Dab Sweet have ridden far out ahead of the Fellowship to scout, right? And they see a lone rider coming towards them, and he thinks about, like, when have you ever known me to be lost? And Crying Rock is like, when I'm not there to point the way. And he smiles at that because, it's only a couple of times in this trip he needed to slip off in the darkness to, use his astrolabe and take a proper bearing. And it's funny because a man needs a trick or two to keep pace with his legend. And so, like, talking about the red bear, it was a spear that he killed it with, not his bare hands. And it had been old and slow and not that big, but it had been a bear, and he killed it all right. And why couldn't people just be satisfied with that? No, bare hands, saving a woman, 3 bears. And so it's like, Jesus Christ. He talks about how the stories about him gotten so big that he can't keep up with it, right? Oh, man. And so, basically, they talk about they're talking about the past and stories and things like that, and how him and Crying Rock have been together for quite some time, right? Yeah,
they feel like they don't really have anything to show for it as well. Sweet's like, just a bunch of stories and a worn-out saddle and a sack full of other men's lies to carry, which I think is a fantastic line.
Yeah. I mean, I do, and he gets like despondent about it, and he says that I was something once, wasn't I? And Crying Rock goes, "You're still something."
Oh, that's
so sweet.
That is nice.
But that could also be sort of like a misunderstanding, which he's just like, "Well, of course you're something. Everybody is."
Yeah,
Could be. Anyway, so the rider comes up to them, and it's a guy named Lockway, and it's a ghost. And Sweet goes, "Okay, what's up, Lockway?" He's like, "Of course it had to be him. He's one of the new type." And he saw the bad and everything. He's very sulky. And Sweet asks him, "Why isn't Sangeet here?" And Lockway's like, "You can speak to me." And Sweet goes, "Yeah, but why should I?" And Lockway's all, pride and stuff. And Dab Sweet's like, all right, let's talk. And so Dab Sweet says, "I'm bringing a fellowship. Might be a day's quick ride south of us. They've got money." And then Lockway goes, "Then we will take it." And Sweet says, "You'll do as you're fucking told is what you'll do. Tell Sangeet to be at the place we agreed on. They're jumpy as all hell as it is. Just show yourself in fighting style. Do some riding around, shout a lot, and shoot an arrow or two, and they'll be keen to pay you off. Keep things easy. Do you understand?" And Lockway says, "I understand," but Sweet doubts it. So he gets close to the ghost, and he goes, "No killing, you hear? Nice and simple, and everyone gets paid. Half for you, half for me. You tell Sangeet that." And Lockway goes, "I will." But there's like tension here. And Lockway looks at Crying Rock, and he goes, "What do you say to this?" And she looks at him, and she doesn't say anything. And
well, that in character, to be fair, yeah, she doesn't.
That's
say
very
much.
true. She doesn't really say much. And Sweet chuckles, and he goes, and Lockway, he goes, "Are you laughing at me, little man?" And Sweet goes, "I'm laughing, and you're here, so draw your own conclusions. Now go off and tell Sangeet what I said." And so Lockway, he goes away, and I guess Sweet is feeling sour because he's leading them, the fellowship, into kind of like he's betraying them in a sense. But
Yeah,
Fuck Dab Sweet, you fucking tiny little piece of shit.
yeah, because I guess his plan is this: the ghosts come, they rob him for all intents and purposes, and Sweet continues guiding them towards Kreese, right?
yes.
That's what seems to be the notion.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, he's like trying to convince himself that what he's doing is like he has no choice. He goes, he's got to have something to retire on, right? Ain't too greedy a dream, is it? And Crying Rock is just, not saying anything, but he could see.
I like how he's talking himself out of it, isn't he? He's like, yeah, I've never been a hero. Like, all those little stories they tell about me are lies.
Right.
So I'm going to do this because I need to survive. And you know what? I just said fuck you, Dab Sweet, but I get it.
Yeah, and the thing is like he sees the disappointment in her face, but he also says, or it could be my disappointment with myself that I'm seeing in her face, which is good. And so then we switch perspectives again to Lockway, who we just met. And Lockway is in, part of the ruins, right? That's where the ghosts are hanging out with Sangeed's there. Sangeed's old, right? And there's like ruins with like some statues of an old god and whatnot. You guys want to talk about this spot?
It's again, it's a very sad.
It's just depressing.
It's extremely depressing, yeah. Because obviously these people have been living in what was an empire and then slowly devolved in sort of like a tribal aspect. And the cultural memory of just being basically oppressed for 1,000 years is still very much in the zeitgeist,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's lean times. Sangeed who was once a great mighty man, is like old and withered, right? It seems.
He mentions the black spots that come in the winter, which I think is probably an allegory for like smallpox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Killed a lot of Native Americans in the 17 and 1800s.
Yeah,
And earlier.
Yeah.
Not that we're talking like 15, 14.
The second we got there when Roanoke was founded, that was
and shit like that. Yeah. There's not. How do I explain this? Lockway is obviously, he sees that their time is coming, the time of the ghosts, with all the migration of the white man. I'm sorry, just the people. And
I was gonna say they're white as well. So
yeah, they are white. Yeah.
The gingers.
I do have to say, like the fact that he's decided to make the ghosts as sort of like a Native American allegory, but they're also, because they're all red-haired and white, I feel like there's sort of like an Irish thing going on there as well.
Yeah, for sure. Probably. Yeah, it makes sense. And
yeah, for sure. Probably makes sense.
What? I'm saying it makes sense.
It's just the way you said it. You know it. You said it funny. Anyway.
Now I'm distracted. Yeah, so Sangeed, I guess him and Dab Sweet have had this arrangement going for some time, it seems like.
Yeah, this is probably not the first time he's done this, I don't think.
No. And I imagine, but with Sangeed's age, he's a lot more infirm, right? He can't move that much, I guess. And so Lockway seems to be kind of positioning himself, or at least he's being positioned, where he's more in a, kind of like taking the mantle of leadership. And this can't go wrong, right, guys?
Nothing. No, definitely not.
There's no way that this could ever go wrong. No. But
not in
really, really young, angry people that have been oppressed for a long time that suddenly have an excuse to do violence and you're paying them for it? No. And that never ever went wrong.
No. And he has a baby son that he's worried about. He wants his son to have a good life, and he fears for his son. He fears for their way of life.
Oh, that's sad.
This is totally not these are totally not all the necessary ingredients for disaster. No way.
It'll be fine.
Be
Nothing bad will
fine.
happen.
And like the last line of this is the last like few lines. It's pretty like it's like. So, like, before the future had always looked like the past, now he knew the past was a better place and the future full of fear and death. But the folk would not fade without a fight. And so Lockway sat beside his wife and son as the stars were opened and dreamed of a better tomorrow he knew would never come. And that's the
Really
end of that
pretty
chapter, boys.
And very sad.
That's the end of that dreams, which is AKA this little people's chapter, which we'll get more of, I think.
And
how do
just to tie in a little bit before the end there, that final quote really reminds me of Dylan Thomas's very famous poem. Do not go gentle into that good night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely referenced there. I think Joe is obviously very well read, but
Yeah.
much better read than any of us.
He is.
Which is why we
slower.
miss everything all the time, by the way, dear
He's also
listeners.
got more time.
He's got way more time. Yeah, he gets paid to do this shit. We don't get fuck.
I don't know shit about fuck.
I know that Harrison, you have some strong thoughts about this. So, do you want to go first?
I don't know. It's just, it's one of those things where I really appreciate that Joe includes the aspect in there instead of it just being like a one-off thing, like either the ghosts are nameless or they're just this bad entity. They are people, and it's Joe probably felt like he had to put that in there so that people don't get like weird about it. Like. As reference to your awful previous statement, Jeff, to remind them that they're not like the Shenka. They're individuals.
Yes,
who've been
Jeff,
around-
that was absolutely fucking awful. How dare you say that?
the most unhinged thing you've ever said.
only in the sense that they wore things cobbled together like the Shanka. That's all I meant. God damn it.
That's not what I heard.
That's your fault. That's you inferring what I said was a clear and a statement. That's all it was.
Man, he's Portuguese, man. You gotta forgive him for it, That's
Oh
what
my
we do.
It's fucking colonizer attitude.
Coming from your mouth, the both of yous.
We learned it from you.
You did not. You did not.
Anyways, I appreciate that Joe includes this perspective. We don't get another one of their perspective, not really. About basically a people who just basically lived their life and done their best and got absolutely fucked by the passage of time. And, I think that a lot of people forget that for thousands upon thousands of years, this was the way of life, that the way that these people lived, they would lose all their land, they would get killed, one bad thing would happen, it would fuck them entirely, and we've forgotten about all of them. The reason why that Native Americans' perspective is important is because it's like a tangible idea within our social consciousness that we can see as the consequences of just passage of time and bad timing and taking advantage of and all of that, even though it's happened to many people through all of time. So I appreciate that Joe has that in there, because without that being in there, it could be perceived as just, a whole bunch of human shaker running around doing So, it doesn't always have to be that, that I've read other stories where there's these raider types and there's just no effort put into them, but here it's very clear, and Joe does it with one perspective. That's all you need,
Yeah.
It's nice.
I also
Not
like
nice.
specifically the sort of cultural implications that we have. My favorite bit is, so in a lot of tribal cultures, as a child becomes a person when they do something specifically, like maybe stand up or walk or speak for the first time. But for the
Yes.
ghosts, it's when they first laugh,
Yeah.
which is just so, it's heartbreaking.
It's so pretty too. Like it's
It's so nice.
terrible.
Damn. So what do you give the chapter then, Harrison?
This is actually, I was telling George about this before. This is, I think, my favorite Little People chapter of the entire series. Maybe we'll see as it goes on. But so far, it's definitely my favorite because it's such a good cast. It's not action centric. It's not things are not happening and they are a part of it. You know, it is just look at all these people, all these different walks of life, all these different perspectives. Some good, some bad, some tragic, some completely self-inflicted,
Reprehensible.
and yeah, reprehensible. And I think it's done very well. And it's I think I'm gonna give it a 9 for me personally, to be honest, because
Oh wow.
this is a gold. It's a goldie for me, bro. I love it.
I'm gonna go just one lower. I'm just gonna give it an 8 because I like more some of the other little people chapters more. But you're absolutely right. You know, this is like Sweet says when they meet the Fellowship. It's a good cross section through society, and I feel like you could kind of know like every single person in this chapter. Like, there's somebody that you would recognize being like that.
Yeah.
And Joe is so good at writing people instead of just archetypal characters. And again, I think Red Country. I've said this before, but I think Red Country is the most focused book out of the whole series. There's only 2 real main POVs, so to have these little people chapters more often and with different characters that also survive and go on to do other things or maybe not.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good way of just broadening the story without having to have all the major plot lines and arcs. And it's just a really interesting way of doing it, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well said, Joe.
I mean, it's a very well done chapter. Good amount of length. You know, we got to meet all the people that not all the people of the Fellowship, but you know, some central figures. Get their backstory, like you know, woven in a way that Joe does, and we get an actual first-person view of the ghost and the culture. You know, I don't mean the human Shanka thing. I didn't mean that. All right.
Too late, Joe.
No, I do get where you were coming from, because it's like, yeah, these guys just appear and they're all dressed in like dresses and
Yeah,
sticks.
and one of them might have had poop under their eyes. Like what?
And
Like,
hell, you know, that might have even been something that Joe was going for. Maybe you see the ghosts for the first time and they are savages, and now we see them and they are people.
Yeah.
So maybe he's playing into your racism.
Maybe.
Oh
So,
my goodness.
you know, I enjoyed the chapter. I'll give it a 7 out of 9 fingers. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the 3 of us, and your support means oh so much.
Join us next week as we cover the Wrath of God and the Practical Thinker.
And make sure you follow us on all of the social media, check out the website, and shoot us an email at circletheworld@gmail.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts from. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast, as it helps. Thank you all again for listening.
You a missing finger enthusiast?